Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's short reading from the Krishna book. It's from the Basics of Bhagavad Gita, a thematic study of Bhagavad Gita based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, the Iskcon founder A.C.Bhaktivedanta, Srila Prabhupada. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham bande Shri Guru Dina Tarinam Paramanandam Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. I beg for forgiveness from all of you if I say something wrong, if I have said something wrong in the past. It was all from my own Vani, not from the Vani of Srila Prabhupada or the Shastras. So I beg for the forgiveness from all of you. Vancha kalpatarubhescha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah. Okay, so we are going to read chapter 4, the wheel of samsara and the law of karma. Reincarnation is a law of nature. We have seen in the previous section, or as in our case we are calling it chapter 3, not the section 3, that the eternal soul leaves the perishable body at the time of death and occupies a new body. This is reincarnation or transmigration. The logic to establish that such a phenomenon takes place was also discussed. By practical evidence laid through past lives, memories of various people, the logic for reincarnation was made stronger. And finally, the scriptural evidence, that is the Shabda Pramana, cited makes it imperative for all of us to believe in reincarnation. Reincarnation, therefore, is not just a Hindu idea as many people believe. It is a law of nature. Nature does not distinguish between caste, creed, religious faith, and so on. Every living being in this creation has to undergo repeated birth and death. Hindus, Muslims, Christians, and others will all have to die and be reborn. Indians, Russians, Japanese, and people of all nations will always have to be reborn. So will all animals, birds, and insects. No one can escape. Just as the law of gravity acts on all the people regardless of their creed, caste, and so on, the law of transmigration, being a law of nature, acts on all. It does not matter whether one knows about the law or not, or whether one believes it or not, the law will act relentlessly, continuously, and unavoidably, life after life. I'll just quickly show you the very famous picture, the very famous painting by, I think it is the Jadurani Mataji. This is how we all start in the beginning, when we come to the earth and our bodies go through so many changes. Like we were saying, even that the science agrees that the body changes every 7 years. So we are never how we came to this earth. We keep changing. It is down to the smallest of the molecules in our body. So the wheel of samsara, samsara spelled as S-A-M-S-A-R-A. In Hindi we call it sansara, but in Sanskrit it is samsara, that which we call as na, the anuswara in na in Hindi, the dot which you put on the top of the word sansar, sansar it's called, but in Sanskrit it is samsara. Samsara refers to this world of birth and death. It is like a wheel because the soul has to repeatedly accept new bodies, giving up old ones. From time immemorial, the eternal soul has thus been wandering within the material world, taking on temporary material bodies one after another, each time forgetting the previous one and thinking the present to be all in all. Jala ja nava lakshani Sthavara laksha vimshati krimyo rudra sankhya kaha pakshinam dasha lakshanam trimsha lakshani pashavaha chatur lakshani manushaha. So this is from the Padma Puran, which means that aquatics have got 9 lakh species. For those who are not familiar with lakh has got 5 zeros. Trees and plants have got 20 lakh species. Which will be how many? 200,000 species. Yeah, insects and reptiles have got 11 lakh species, birds 10 lakh species, animals 30 lakh species, human beings 4 lakh species, and total 84 lakh species, which is 84 and then 5 zeros after that, or we can say 8.4 million. These species embody different levels of consciousness. Even amongst the human beings, there are 4 lakh species based on levels of consciousness. The meaning of word species in biology is used in a different sense from the one used in the Vedas. In modern science, species is categorized according to its superficial morphological appearance, and thus a cat and a tiger may be treated as belonging to the same family because they look similar. But the Vedas categorize the species according to their gunas or qualities. There are 3 qualities: the sattva gun, that is the mode of goodness; rajagun, mode of passion; and tamogun, the mode of ignorance. These 3 are mixed together in various permutations and combinations. 8.4 million species with varied consciousness. Sometimes the soul may occupy a human body, sometimes an insect's body, sometimes a bird's body, or sometimes even a demigod's body. So a soul can even go up to the body of a demigod as well, a devta as well, Devi Devta. In this way, the soul keeps revolving round and round in the wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and death among the 84 lakh species of life. This evolution is quite different from the evolution theory of Charles Darwin that man has evolved from the apes, which is a highly speculative and erroneous idea not in conformity with the scriptures. Darwin speculated about some type of evolution which involves one type of species evolving into higher type of species. Since the word species in modern science refers to the external morphological appearance and characteristics as mentioned earlier, that Darwin suggested that it was the body itself that changed or evolved over a period of time into a body of a higher level. The fact, however, is that we have never seen any simple organism developing into a higher form of life. We have never seen any species of life giving birth to another higher than itself. For example, we do not see amphibians reproducing reptiles or monkeys reproducing humans. Moreover, if one physical species actually did evolve into a higher species, that lower species should have disappeared. How is that all the species of life coexist today? And as far as this evidence of the Darwinian theory of evolution like the fossils is considered, well, that is another story which cannot be explained in detail here. It's sufficient to say here that vast amounts of evidence that would contradict the evolution theory have been screened out, and the record of the fossils has been carefully edited to support it. For example, many fossils show the presence of modern man throughout a vast span of time, even at the periods when the evolution theory says not modern man, but his ape-like ancestors should have lived. Therefore, Darwin's theory of evolution is unacceptable. Instead, we accept evolution in the sense of the soul's movement into different bodies, one after another. The souls move higher automatically in the hierarchy of the 8.4 million species, one by one, and then come into the human form of life. The human species is a junction for the soul. According to karma performed in the human body, the next birth may be either in the lower species, in the higher species, that is a demigod, or back into the human species. And if the human being has attained spiritual perfection, then the soul can be released from the cycle of birth and death and return to the spiritual world, the kingdom of God, or the Vaikuntha. Life exists all over the universe. Every environment in the universe in different planets is capable of sustaining life forms, and there are living beings in appropriate bodies in all planets. The soul has been described as Sarva Gataha in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 verse 24, it says, Achedyo yam adayaho yam akledyo shoshya evacha nityah sarva gatah sthanur achalo yam sanatana. Translated as, this individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble and can neither be burned nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, and eternally the same. Srila Prabhupada in his commentary on this verse explains the word Sarvgataha, or all-pervading, is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live on land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even within fire. The belief that they are sterilized in a fire is not acceptable because it is clearly stated that here that the soul cannot be burned by fire. Therefore, there is no doubt that there are living entities also in the sun planet with suitable bodies to live there. If the sun globe is uninhabited, then the word Sarvagatas, living everywhere, becomes meaningless. Modern research has confirmed that there are some types of germs living in the boiling water and even in fire. Wow, that is an eye-opener, isn't it? So it is not difficult to accept that life could exist on different planets of the universe in appropriate life form. Even on our tiny planet Earth, we see that the fish have one kind of body to be able to live in the water, and the birds have a body appropriate for the air, and humans for the land. Similarly, the other planets, there are bodies made different according to the atmosphere there, and all are obtained according to one's karma. The garment shop of material nature. So we have already seen that the material body is like a dress for the soul. Since there are 84 lakh species or 8.4 million species in the world, it means that there are as many varieties of dresses available for the soul to wear in the garment shop of material nature. The living entity chooses a particular dress according to its desire, as expressed through its activities or karma and material nature, then awards the body to the soul. The karma performed is the price with which the soul can purchase the new body. And these sentences are absolutely wow. For every kind of desire, there is an appropriate dress or body available in the large shop of material nature. Such is the elaborate arrangement of God. Eat meat, become a tiger. The pure spirit soul belongs to the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. He is not meant to be here in this material world, but somehow or other he has come here, and since time immemorial he has been struggling against the stringent laws of material nature, accepting body after body. The living entity is supposed to lead a pure life with such desires and activities that will liberate him from this vicious wheel of samsara. However, out of ignorance, he does not understand what kinds of desires and activities will actually bring about his welfare. So he acts in most unbecoming ways against his real interest and suffers. Being captivated and allured by the attractions of the false pleasures of this world, he becomes a bundle of illicit desires. Material nature then forcibly awards him that material body which exactly corresponds to his desires and activities. Each kind of body in nature is designed to efficiently cater for certain kinds of desires. For example, a bear's body is perfectly suited for the excessive sleep. The tiger's body is just right for eating meat. Monkeys have a prolific capacity for engaging in sex in a measure that is not possible for humans. The human body, however, is meant for God realization alone. That is its uniqueness and speciality, not found in any other kind of body. So what is the realization? What is the specialization of our human body? It is God realization, which is not possible in any other kind of body. So हमारी देह की विशेषता है कि हम ईश्वर की अनुभूति कर सकते हैं अपने जीवन में. हम उनकी रियलाइजेशन, व्हाट्स द राइट हिंदी रियलाइजेशन वर्ड, हम ईश्वर की साधना कर सकते हैं और उनके बारे में समझ सकते हैं, उनके बारे में दूसरों को समझा सकते हैं. खुद समझने के बाद या हमको क्या समझ आया उतना, एटलीस्ट उतना, कम से कम उतना तो आगे बता सकते हैं. और यह किसी और योनि में संभव नहीं है. Having obtained the human form of life, if one neglects the sublime path of God realization and instead lives a degraded life dedicated merely to animalistic pursuits, one may forfeit the right to get a human body in the next birth. Want to eat meat? Take a tiger's body, says the material nature. Love sleeping excessively? Here's a bear's body for you, says nature again. Like exposing your body? Then become a tree. This is what nature, material nature, will give us then. In this way, material nature gives us bodies just appropriate to our desires and activities. So whenever we see a tree next time, we will understand that this one has been, in a way, was exposing their body in the last life. So hence, Lord has fulfilled their desires of becoming a tree in this life. We have seen earlier that there are two kinds of material bodies: the gross body made of earth, water, air, fire, ether, and the subtle body made up of mind, intelligence and false ego. स्थूल शरीर यानी कि ग्रोस बॉडी वो बनता है अर्थ, वाटर, फायर, एयर एंड ईथर से. धरती, जल, अग्नि, वायु और आकाश. और सूक्ष्म शरीर बनता है मन, बुद्धि और अहंकार से. The gross body is the outer dress for the soul and the subtle body is the inner dress. At the time of death, the soul gives up the gross body, that is outer dress, but the subtle body or inner dress remains the same. It is in fact the subtle body that acts as a vehicle to carry the soul from the old body to the new body. The subtle body, which harbors the desires of the living entity, carries the conception of the next body, and it develops another gross body in the next life. Lord Krishna compares this transfer to the way air carries aromas from place to another. So Bhagwan Krishna compares this transmigration of soul from one body to another, just like the aroma is carried from one place to another through the air. जैसे हवा एक स्थान से दूसरे स्थान तक अपने भीतर सुगंध को या खुशबू को लेके जाती है, उसी प्रकार से हमारी आत्मा एक शरीर से दूसरे शरीर में विचरण करती है और या यात्रा करती है. Under the superintendence of the super soul, the minute spirit soul then enters into the womb of a particular mother through the semen of a father and develops a particular type of body supplied by the mother. Now, the laws of karma. According to the law of karma, for every action that an individual performs, there is an appropriate reaction. This is a subtle law that governs all the activities of living beings. So you, me, none of us is immune. Whatever we do, we get an appropriate reaction to our karma, according to our karma. There is a similar law in modern science. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This is Newton's third law, as we all know. The law of karma is a law of cause and effect, or action and reaction. This means that for everything we do, there will be a reaction, and for everything that is happening, there is a past cause known as known or unknown. So whatever is happening, there is always a past cause, known or unknown, from this life or God knows from how many lives before. This one can understand that we are presently suffering or enjoying the fruits of our past activities, and that our present activities will determine our future suffering or enjoyment. No one can escape this law, however big or small he may be, and certainly ignorance of the law is no excuse. It works perfectly under the control of God, acting through material nature and time. And here is the famous painting. So you can see this man, he's slaughtering an animal, and his next birth is determined by this. This person is going to come back as this animal again, and this animal will have the body of this man. This is how the law of karma governs. Now, the three kinds of activities in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna explains that there are three kinds of activities one can perform. Karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmanaha akarmanascha bodhavyam gahana karmano gati. This is from chapter 4, verse 17. Translated as, the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. The three kinds of activities are, I'll show you the chart quickly. The three kinds of activities: karma, pious activities or punya, then vikarma, sinful activities or papa, and lastly, akarma or spiritual activities, which is the bhakti or the devotional service. So there are three kinds of activities: karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is the pious activities or the punya. Vikarma is the sinful activities or the papa. Akarma is spiritual activities or the devotional service, or what we call bhakti. The pious activity or the karma. The word karma generally means any action. However, there is also another specific meaning, namely pious activity, also called punya. Punya refers to those activities which are prescribed and sanctioned by the Lord through the scriptures. Performance of such activities give one material benefits in return. In other words, these are pious credits, the results of which the performer will enjoy in this life or the next. Example of pious activities are giving charity to the poor, helping the blind, distributing free medicines, digging wells, planting trees, feeding the hungry, and so on. By performing such pious activities, one may attain in the future lives wealth, beauty, good birth, health, material happiness, and even birth in the heavenly planets. Now, by sinful activity or the vikarma, this refers to the prohibited actions, those actions which violate the scriptural injunctions, which go against the principles and rules given by God for civilized human society. Sin is usually performed out of ignorance and leads to suffering in this life and the next. Examples of sin are stealing, killing, indulging in vices like drinking alcohol, eating meat, and so on. By performing sin, one attains suffering, poverty, disease, low birth, ugliness, etc. Now, both karma and vikarma are the cause of bondage. It is important to note that both karma and the vikarma are material activities, and they bind one to the cycle of birth and death because they force us to take birth again to enjoy or suffer the reactions of karma or the vikarma. Karma, like we said, was the punya activity, and the vikarma was the sinful activity. When one continuously performs punya, one accumulates one stock of punya which stands to one's credit. As a result of this, one gets an opportunity in the future to enjoy material facilities and happiness, say in the heavenly planets. And as one enjoys the stock of punya, it gets depleted or it gets exhausted. When the stock is exhausted, one has to return to one's original position on earth. As Lord Krishna explains, Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti evam trayi dharmam anuprapanna gatagatam kama kama labhante. From chapter 9, Bhagavad Gita, verse 21, translated as, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasures and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Here is an example to help us understand this point. A businessman may work hard for some time and accumulate a lot of money, then he decides to take a vacation and enjoy himself. As he enjoys, he has to spend his hard-earned money. Eventually, then his stock of money has depleted. Now he has to return to working hard in his business once again. Similarly, by performing pious activities, one gets the fruit in terms of the material happiness, etc., and then one returns to one's earlier state. Similar logic holds good for the sinful activities. Consider a criminal who is jailed for 1 year for committing a crime. As he suffers in the jail, with every passing day, his stock of crime reduces, and finally, at the end of 1 year, he is free once again to return to his earlier position. Exactly like that, when one performs sinful activity, one may be punished by being sent to the hellish planets for certain duration of time. By enduring the punishment, one depletes one's stock of sin and eventually returns to one's earlier position. In this way, by enjoying, one exhausts the results of one's punya, and by suffering, one exhausts the results of one's sins. Since one goes on performing pious and sinful activities, one is forced to repeatedly take birth in order to enjoy and suffer the fruits of one's activities. Thus, the wheel of the samsara, it rotates. So tomorrow or perhaps on Monday, we'll continue with the next section, which is akarma. Akarma literally means inaction, but this does not mean a physical cessation of actions or avoidance of work. Akarma refers to the spiritual activities, that is, activities performed on behalf of or for the pleasure of God. Because they are so performed without any selfish desire, they do not implicate the performer or entangle them. In other words, akarma does not bring material reactions. So I'll continue the reading next time, and I'll take your leave now. I wish you all a very blissful remainder of the weekend left, and I'll see you next time. Let's see if it's going to be tomorrow or Monday. Till then, Hare Krishna, and thanks for joining. Hari Bol.